Good morning, guys. I'm Blackie and welcome back to the channel. Not long ago, SRO and the Pathfinder School brought out a modern take on the M40 military cook stove set, mess kit set. And mine is an original, but it has become so popular and I get a lot of people asking me about what I carry in my kit, tips and tricks for it, things like that. So that's what this video is going to be. I'm going to take you through my kit and explain the hows and whys of the things that I've chose to do with it. So let me turn it down on the deck over here and we'll break it down. Okay, first off, mine is the aluminum set. Now some people say that the hinges is steel or that the bail handle is steel. It's not. Every bit of this is aluminum, and that is a magnet on there. And when I got mine, I initially thought it was the steel one, but it's not. It is aluminum. Now, let's talk about fuel carry. This is the original spirit. They call them spirits instead of fuel. I use denatured alcohol. I go to the hardware store and either get it in like a 1 gallon thing or the quart thing. Usually you'll find it where you'll find paint thinner and stuff like that. Some people use it to clean paintbrushes. But it's denatured alcohol is what it is, and a lot of times today on the can it'll even say fuel on it. Walmart sells it in the paint department. But this is what comes with the kit originally. And these are not bad. They're fairly heavy duty, fairly flexible. But I wanted more capacity. I carry one of these MSR fuel bottles. One of the big advantages is, if you'll look at the top, you see there's a little point. On either one of those there's a hole. That allows me to unscrew it till that hole becomes exposed, and I can do like that and pour a very precise stream. It allows me to fill it up without making a big sloshing mess. Usually this bottle full will handle an entire camp out of 2 to 3 days and take care of all of my needs fairly well. I carry it as separate. It seals up good and tight, does not leak, has an O-ring up here as well as it being a tight fit into it, and it's an aluminum bottle. So that way it's tough, durable, and is less likely to crush. Now, one of the reasons I really like the Trangia using alcohol is alcohol evaporates easily. So should get turned over and it pour over my stuff, just like rubbing alcohol, it'll evaporate. Usually it doesn't damage anything unless you got something that's real sensitive to that stuff. But any gear, if it gets on my clothing or whatever, I just got to hang it up and let the sun get to it and air get to it, and it'll dry out and you'll never know it was there. So that's a real advantage of carrying it in a pack. Alright, now let's start with the kit. You have the windscreen, slash some people call it the stove. And it is all aluminum as well, including the little legs inside are aluminum. I would have thought they were steel, to be honest. When you look at it from above, and I've modified mine, we'll talk about that a little bit later, you can squeeze or twist these a little bit to make it fit more snug. So that whenever you put the stove in, I will push the handle in just a little bit, feed it into the opening, and come down, and then I have to wiggle it to get it to go. But you see it'll stay on because I've actually bent the metal just a little bit so it fits a little tighter. And you can take your thumb, like you see this one's bent out because that's where the original hook went. We'll get to that in a second. Inside you have the 2 folding legs that fold up to hold the pot in place. Now notice the big opening in the bottom. Yes, you can turn it upside down and use this as a twig stove. You can melt it. Remember, it is thin aluminum. So for just a small little light twig stove, yes you can. But don't think you're going to make this thing cherry red hot, because it'll melt, okay, and warp. So yes, in an emergency, if I have no fuel, I can build a fire, rake me up a pile of coals, and set this over it and be able to cook on it, okay? Now let's go to the pot. The pot set usually has this extra hook on to it. I have removed that hook. That's the reason there's a dent there and a dent there. That extra hook was because in the military application of this, whenever they're up in Sweden and etc., very cold country, what they like to do is they would take a long, thin tree, a sapling or something like 2-inch diameter, and they would build a long fire, and they'd take 8, 10, 12 of these at a time and hook it to that pole and set it over the heat. That way, I'm not just heating up mine, I'm heating up the squads. See, the whole platoon or whatever. And then once it's ready, they'd pick the pole up and step out from over the fire, and you'd come up and grab your mess kit off of it. That's what that big hook is for. I realize it can be used in a couple of configurations, but to me, it was just in the way. So I simply spread it apart and took it off of here. I prefer to this type of handle to that extra hook. Now, we have the small fry pan / plate, which has the 2 snap-up rings so that you can stick a stick in here, be able to reach out and either dip up water out of a water source, which is sometimes important when you're out in cold country and you got to reach out over the ice where it's too thin right here at the edge, but you got to reach out a little bit to get to clear water. That would be handy. And to be able to use this to cook on a fire as a fry pan or something. Now this, although it is aluminum, heats up to hot in a hurry. It transfers heat unusually well. So that's the reason you got to have a stick or do a modification I'll show in a minute. It fits on the pot either way, either sitting like that just to seal it up or like that to completely enclose it. Completely enclosed like that, you can bake in this. You can close it like you just saw me do right there, and I'll take a little stick or something and wedge in there. And then I have sat this down in the coals and then just bury it in the coals and bake in it. You can also set it sideways and like you see as a reflector oven and bake in it with one of the little bitty racks that fit into it. And I have a small rack to slide into this. In a future date I will do a bread baking in this. Okay. As you can tell, I have painted mine and it needs another coat. I use high temp barbecue grill black paint. 2 reasons. 1, it helps spread the heat a little more evenly, and 2, the soot wipes off far easier than it does off the bare metal, in my experience. So I went years ago to painting everything that's going to be in the fire, around the fire. You see, it even looks like it's copper right there, but it's not. It's this same type of aluminum, but it's been spray painted with barbecue paint, and I really need to put another coat on it. Now we come to the contents. I carry MRE toilet paper in there, moist towelette, a couple of small satchels of beverage, a thing of instant tea, powdered creamer, give it a second. Alright, a thing of coffee, a thing of sugar, and a thing of salt. Come out of an MRE. I save it and recycle it into this. Then I carry in here a U.S. Army stainless steel canteen. I'll show how that applies in a second. In the bottom of the main pot, I carry 2 or 3 1-quart Ziploc bags for immersion heating. And I carry about 3 feet of heavy-duty aluminum foil folded up in a small thing. 1,001 uses for the aluminum foil. I can lay it out flat on a log or something to have a clean place to process meat or something like to keep it out of the dirt or the muck or the whatever. Like right now everything's wet, and like this table is covered in moss and everything else. And if I had to lay something down on this, I'd want to cover it with something like this, more sterile. So I do that to carry it. I can also use this to wrap up meat, vegetables and stuff and bake them in the actual coals of a fire. And in the main pot. Now, as I said, the main pot can be sat sideways, and from SRO they make a small little grate that will sit in here and allow you to bake in this as a reflector oven. When I do that, I prefer to put it like this and grab a hold of this to pick it up and out of the fire with either a tent stake to hook underneath or a pair of multipliers off of a multi-tool, or simply just a, I can shove a stick in there, be able to pick it in and out if I need to. But I find that's the easiest way to keep it from tipping over. Now, I also carry in here, I got this from Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and it is a hobo knife kit. And that means that you've got a fork, you've also got a spoon, and then you can wiggle them and they come apart. Just a second. Just like that. Now I have a separate fork and spoon. Also on the fork side there is a bottle opener and a knife, so I got a knife and fork to cut up meat with. See? Which I'm always going to be carrying a bigger and badder knife, you know that. And also they're just a little peg and a recess that lines up. You scoot it back in, and then closing it or opening it locks it in position where it doesn't come apart. So that's a little hobo. I carry a lighter in here, and I make sure I get a clear one. A lot of times you can get the lighters that's got some sort of, fancy design on it or whatever, and it's a shrink piece of plastic. If you'll very carefully cut that plastic and peel it off, it's a clear one like this almost, and you can, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the fluid level. Just hold it up to light a little and you can see the fluid level. So you know if your lighter's getting low. I carry one of the fold cups in here, just like this. This is the hot beverage cup. This is when I'm going to have hot coffee or something, and I don't want to have to wait for it to cool down like my military cup. I can take and I can drink it directly out of this. Also, this is very good for a separate soup bowl, food bowl, mixed bowl, whatever. About the right size to handle what I'm going to be doing in the field, and at the same time, it's just light and handy and quick. And it folds just like that. This little tab will come in handy in a minute, and I'll show you. Then I have my Trangia burner. Now this one is an actual Trangia. It's got the T in the bottom of it. But the Chinese knockoffs work just as well. I prefer these brass ones over the stainless ones because the brass ones transfer heat faster and bloom quicker. Now if you got really, really cold, wet ground, you guys up in the snow, what you want to do is you want to take and like drive tent stakes in the ground, or drive sticks in the ground and set the Trangia on that so it's got a little bit of a air gap, and then set this over it so that this is not directly in contact with the coal, because what's happening is as this burns it transfers the heat. That's what causes it to gasify and you get the more efficient burn out of it. If this is too cold, it will not do that. It will keep it from doing it. And plus, if you're putting it on coal like snow, it may melt down in the ground. So being able to put it on a base that's not going to melt into the snow, like sticks stuck into the snow, or like it putting onto something to insulate it off of that cold rock, will make it burn better. I have a simmer ring on top. This allows me to adjust how the flame is going to be so I can kind of regulate the heat. And then it has the lid on it. It has an O-ring in it. I went ahead and ordered like 4 additional O-rings, and I got them saved should this wear out. And eventually these O-rings will wear out, because as you look here at the burner, here are the jets around that edge. And if you look down here, you'll see that little bit of discoloration. That's kind of like a verdigris of it. It's what it's officially called, oxidation. And what that does is it makes it like a grit. And it'll get up here around the jets as well, from fuel and oxidation, etc. And you go to screw that lid on, and it kind of sands that seal. So when it gets to where my seal doesn't quite want to, I may get a little bit of a leak, turn your O-ring around, you'll get another run on it. When it gets where it don't matter which side it's going to leak, throw the O-ring away and pop in a new one. Also notice the way this thing is set up, there's this ridge right here. It's kind of a shallow area. Whenever you're filling this thing up and it's cold and you're wanting to set it up, you fill it up and then you're going to drizzle a little around the top and down here onto this ring. This is how you light it. You're going to strike your lighter and light here, and that'll poof, and it'll light the whole thing. That will heat this top up, preheater, because that's what you want. Inside, there's a double wall. You can see the liquid in there. That's the inner wall, and there's an outer wall. In between it, there's a wick that brings it up to here. By heating this up, I'm heating up that wick and quicker turning it to bloom faster. Faster heat, faster work, more efficiency. And so that's the reason I do that. Instead of lighting it in the middle, I want to light this outside ring and let it heat up quickly. That will get my jets going faster. And usually what happens, you start it in the middle and it runs for a little bit, and then these jets wake up. I found if I wet the outside and ignite it, it goes to jets much faster. Okay, putting the lid on, and you can store it with fluid in it, as you just saw. Good snug fit. Turn and make sure it doesn't drip out down here on the edge. If it's not getting, if you tip it and you don't see liquid coming out down here, give it a little shake, nothing, you got a good seal. Okay, now, the way that it comes is that you're supposed to put it sitting in like this. Okay, the problem with that is, as you can see right here, this is where all the heat wants to flow out, and there's that handle. And that handle will get, I mean, scalding hot really quick. So fast that before this ever gets hot enough to eat, that will burn you the second you touch it. I mean, brand new. Even a rag will catch a fire grabbing a hold of it. That's the reason they put those stake loops into it. The modification that I made, and I don't know why they didn't do it, is I went to the far side and I measured how wide this hinge is right here. And I simply cut me out a notch a 1/2 inch deep, so now it sits just like that. Now, with this rolling boil, I can reach and grab his handle, and that handle is just warm, not hot, because of it. So it really has improved this stove quite a bit. Also, you set your Trangia down, you drizzle around, you ignite it, poof. Then you set your, already got the legs opened, you set your on top. You go, you cook, okay? When you get done cooking, I see so many people trying to run their hand down in that flaming cauldron trying to put that lid on or throw it in it. No, 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 no. Let me show you the easy way. All you got to do is take a fork or take a knife or take whatever, and see here on the side you got these big slots that come so far down. There's a reason for that. You reach in that slot and hook that leg and pick it up off of it. Now I can come in and put this on. Now see, here's that leg. You come in the side and just hook like that and pick it up and sit it over and let it cool. Now I can come up here with a snifter and put this out at my leisure without trying to burn my hand. I see a lot of people doing that, scorching all the hair off their knuckles trying to do it. Close them legs back off. Now, also, with that 1/2 inch wide cutout I made on the far side, I take my U.S. Army canteen cup, take it, butterfly handles is what you want for this, and it will sit just like that into that slot. And you can heat up just this. Now, but Blackie, I got this, yes, but in my cooking, I found where I'm cooking for me, I may want to use this for a plate, okay? So I'm heating and eating out of this, and I want to just heat up additional. The bags here are for immersion heating. What that means in English is, I want to put this on here, and I want to get it going, and I've got a can of chili. I will put the chili into here and then set that into the pot of water and let it heat it up. That way when I pull it out, I just set the bag into the lid and eat it out of the bag. This becomes a handle for the bag, see? And so the plate can be used that way. It also means that as soon as I get done with that, or maybe I don't want to cook quite that big. I just want to heat up something small directly. I can just set it directly like that over the flame and heat this up real quick and easy. So I got a third cooking pot. See what I'm saying? Alright, now let's pack it all back up. Into the bottom, I take my 2 or 3 quart Ziploc freezer bags. Freezer bags are important because they're tougher and thicker and they can take the heat better than a standard bag. I don't want to bend this in half because remember you got that Ziploc right there. So I'm just going to bend it a little sideways like that. It can take that. Then the aluminum foil goes into the bottom. Now into here I'm going to take my Folding cup, and remember that finger tab right there? The Trangia locks in there just like that, see? And it holds it in place. So I put it right there. Now I'm going to take my spoon set and set it right on top of it. That will go just like that into the U.S. Army cup. Now around it, I will drop the lighter into the front. In the back slot, I will put all these little sachets of tea, coffee, and etc. And here on this corner, there's also room for me to put a couple of sachets down in there. Just like that. Just like that. Find the slot it fits. Just like that. And finally put the toilet paper on top. In goes that. Keeps it from rattling so much. Now, on the back, I take the pot lid, put it on there, fold it down and lock it. Come in and put your finger there and push in so it sides in clean. And then it gets right here, wiggle it to make it fit between all these 4 pieces till it all hooks together. And that is my stove set. Hope you've enjoyed this content, guys. The M40 Swedish stove, to me, is the best stove you're going to have for 1 person or 2 people. It's small enough and light enough to slide into a backpack. It provides the ability to fry, bake, stews, cooks, etc. I can use this pot over a fire if I need to when I run out of fuel. It's quick and easy to make coffees and stuff like that. By adding that Folding cup and a little aluminum foil, a little bit of the accessories just blended in there, it makes a very compact system. For 1 person, it's perfect for me, and it's my go-to. I've got Coleman stoves, I've got all kinds of stuff, but I keep coming back to this. This is just my favorite stove set to carry on campouts. Hope you've enjoyed this, guys. If you have, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button before you go. Until next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.